Hey, welcome to our classroom. Today we have Christopher Lehman, but he goes by Chris, people. Let's get that clear. Founding director of the Educator Collaborative, a K through 12 literacy think tank and professional development organization working to innovate ways educators learn together. If you don't know, Chris is an international speaker, literacy consultant, and New York Times best-selling author. Excuse me. Hey, folks, y'all are in for a treat.
Well,
Chris is doing great work. The Educator Collaborative, who we've worked with, Multicultural Classroom, doing great work. And so, welcome to the platform. Thank you for being here.
thank you, Roberto. I really am honored and appreciate the invitation.
Well, I want to hear a little bit about the Educator Collaborative because I want to suspend the assumption that my audience knows about the Educator Collaborative. I know the wonderful work that y'all are doing, but for those that are not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Sure. So the Educator Collaborative, we're now in our 11th year. We just had our decade anniversary somehow. I swear I'm young. I swear.
Congratulations.
Uh, thank you. In my heart, I'm young. So we're an organization of practicing educators. I like to say we were on Zoom before the whole world had to be on Zoom. So since the beginning, we are a group of educators from across the US, around the world. Our focus is on literacy education and all the areas around literacy, so including language, content area literacy, et cetera. And we have everyone from classroom teachers, instructional coaches, administrators, college professors, researchers, authors, consultants, kind of all of us in different roles inside of education. We meet online once monthly in our think tank, and we share best practices, study together. One thing I love the most about our work in our think tank is that we really over time have, well, since the beginning, but we've really built, I think, a good structure to decentralize our learning. So there isn't like myself or one of us who's directing everything. Instead, we have topics that we meet on across the course of several months, and it's led by members. And really, our groups are around facilitating collaboration and conversation with us and with each other. And then in addition to that, we also provide professional development. So we do consulting in schools, we have speaking engagements for literacy organizations, districts, conferences. So we take our learning together and then bring that into classrooms, schools, and at organizations.
Well, I love the notion of being collaborative and you're doing impactful work as it relates to literacy. You use the term members. Is this a secret society? Like
Right.
how can people be part of the Educator Collaborative? Because it sounds like you're doing amazing work.
Yes, well, thank you. That's a great question. So we have two parts of our think tank. So one are our fellows. So those are longer term members that um, basically we have our riches are also our curse, where really great people doing amazing things stay with us for as long as they can, and then they take on many, many other amazing things and go off to other things too. So we have that group that's longer. And then one thing I love about our think tank, and all credit goes to Dr. Chantal Francois, who now I think you're in Virginia, Chantal. But when she was a member many years ago, she brought up the point, a lot of us in the think tank, we knew each other. We either knew each other through like conferences or just in our professional lives. And so it was her idea to create what we've now in our fourth or fifth cohort of our associates. So every 2 years, anyone at all who has some kind of literacy focus in education can apply to be an associate. And then they have a 2 year term with us as a part of our think tank. So our current associates are right now in their second year of their term. So this spring, we'll have a new application for that. And that innovation, thank you, Chantal, really has brought, I think, even more life into our think tank because we have people who are opting in from all over. I'm always it always is amazing, but also reassuring to feel like you actually want to be a part of what we're doing. And so just as a really incredible group. So you can read all the current bios on our website. You'll find everyone there. But yeah, that's how you're a part. Either you're invited in or you join as an associate member.
Okay. And I know one of the unique things that you offer is the gathering. I know because I was a part of it. Lorena was a
Yes,
part of it.
yeah.
Thank you for inviting us to participate. We were blessed, and it was awesome, even to see like the number of people that showed up to our sessions, like folks that we recognize who are amazing educators doing great work there to experience our session. And so we were blessed by that. Can you talk about the gathering and what it is and your big vision for the gathering?
Sure, thank you. So our the gathering started when we started. So we now had I think our 22nd gathering. They are totally free, no registration, online literacy conference. It's a one-day conference that happens twice a year, so every September and April. And really when we started, so this was way pre-pandemic, we were one of the few online free conferences. The back end of it is all volunteer run. So we've always had educators who have volunteered to be a part of helping to run the session. Technology has changed over time and some things have gotten easier. Way in the beginning, we had like Google Classrooms on air. I don't know if you remember that. Like it was so many different ways that we were trying to run this day, but it basically is a literacy conference. So folks from all over can submit a session that they'd like to present, or we have our own think tank members, or we invite guests like you and Lorena to keynote and to present. And it's really, I think there's two purposes. One is it's our gift to the literacy education community. We learn a lot from all of the people that are a part of that day, and we want to just share that learning with everyone. And then the other part, like you mentioned, is we call it a gathering because we want it to be a way that we can find each other too. The work that's needed in our world and in just critical literacy and learning and development of children requires us to find our people, to find each other, to find people that want to teach kids, not as curricula, and that want to make classrooms that look like the world and want to respect our profession and support and love other educators fighting this fight with us. And so we see it as both a way to share learning, but also as a way for us to find each other and connect and build our own network of people that believe in the same work.
It's dope that you offer it for free because sometimes the cost of many of these conferences becomes such a barrier for entry. And there are folks who want to dig in. They want to do the work, they want to get their hands dirty, they want to learn, they want to connect, but they simply cannot afford to attend these conferences, whether in person or online. So one, thank you for offering the free conference. And two, what I mean, you mentioned it a bit right now, but maybe you could elaborate a bit more on the intention to maintain this free conference because I just don't see a lot of conferences that are offered for free and have the high quality content and amazing individuals who are presenting at these conferences.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think one challenge I've had since the start of the EdCollab, it's a good challenge to have, but it's a business, so I certainly, there's business things that need to be done. But I think what I and my colleagues continually come back to is what's our moral compass? What matters the most to us? And so would it be better for business if we found a way to charge? Probably. But that's not what we want the gathering for. And I think to your point, uh, conferences, especially if you're like, I love NCT, I'm going to be going there. I haven't been there for a few years. I'm going to go to Boston, but it's so expensive to travel and to have a hotel and then pay for registration. And I understand they're trying to put on a good conference. There's lots of things they're doing, but yes, it's a huge barrier. And increasingly over this past decade, more and more districts are either losing funding, which has happened, or they are no longer willing to send people out to PD and to go to conferences because they are spending money on curricula or on the promise of technology and programs that kids will do on laptops, which we know isn't really going to teach kids. There's a lot of money being spent on stuff instead of people. And so we've kept this free because, as you said, number one, we're just so lucky that we have such high quality content and it's all people volunteering their time to want to share. But we're keeping it free because people need access to good learning and we are trying to remove barriers to that. So even the fact that there's no registration. So what would be good for business is if we were asking people to, sign up for our newsletter in order to join the conference or have some even free barrier to entry in that way. And even that, if you can log into YouTube or you can go to a website, you can watch our conference. So we've kept it that way for, I think, exactly the reason you said. We want people to have access to learning and we want to try to remove barriers for them, many of which have just been over the last several years constructed higher and higher. As I think teachers are being deprofessionalized, as districts are turning to stuff and the public is turning to stuff more than people.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all of that and being honest about that tension that exists, because I know that's something that we struggle with at Multicultural Classroom in terms of like, hey, we want to be able to work with numerous organizations and bring down as much as possible our offerings, and at the same time, this is a business, so there is a real tension that exists there, and yet for educators, we know that it's critical that they receive solid, strong, good professional development. So, what makes good professional development and what is the right attitude for providers?
Great question. And I think this is a particularly timely conversation because right now it's especially happening in elementary levels around literacy, but it's been trickling up, and frankly, it's existed for all of time in many ways that um, right now, due to some perspectives on literacy, a lot of districts or states are mandating that teachers need to use specific curriculum. So Connecticut, for example, made a short list of these are the only curriculum you can choose from. This will answer all of our problems, which clearly no, it won't. But a lot of professional learning, especially recently, has been on the stuff. So it's been whatever publisher is doing professional learning by coming to your school and telling you how to use the things. What's the button to push or what's the page to turn to? Um, and and I think the challenge of that is, well, one, I will say, if teachers are being told that they have to use a certain curriculum, or even leaders in states, they're being told they have to use a certain curriculum, they absolutely deserve to have someone from that curriculum come on site and tell you what they think it's supposed to do. I think they absolutely should have that. But when learning is focused more on the stuff and less on the people, it's dependent, A, on the quality of that stuff. And most curricula, at least literacy curricula that I have interacted with, um, most does not know the kids that are in front of us. Um, a lot of it, at NYU, some recent studies looked at a number of these newer literacy curricula that have been rolled out. A lot of them have been found to be culturally damaging. So they're dangerous, many of them to have in classrooms. And it's again a form of deprofessionalization to say this curriculum knows better than you, teacher who's been doing this for 15, 20, however many years, or even 5 years. So we're going to tell you how to say the words and do the things that we somewhere in another state and some office have decided on. So I'd start the answer with poor professional development is focused only on the things and not on the people. And then what makes for good professional development? I mean, in our organization, we rely on research on adult professional learning and then all of our think tanks, like just what are the things that are working for us. A few places that we go to, I think one big guiding light, Linda Darling Hammond in particular, her research around adult learning, one term that she uses often is coherence, that professional learning needs to be coherent to the context, the people, the place, the culture, the policies of that school. or of that district, if you are coming with an answer, but ignoring the people that are there and the things that they're using and the policies and their schedule and their challenges, if you're ignoring all of that, which happens, then you're one and done. You're sharing stuff, but no one knows where to place it. Um, I think if instead, like we try to do, if you're going into a district and the first thing you're doing is listening. So whenever any of us start work with the district, the first thing we do is talk with the leaders and then talk with the teachers and visit classrooms and talk to students and just see what is happening here. And what we're looking for are first, what are the strengths to build on? What's already happening that we can just make stronger? And then where are the places that our expertise might be able to help? Um, but if you're not working coherently, if you're not working in tandem with the people you claim to be helping, if you aren't set up to have a collaborative, you're going to learn from me, that's why I'm here, but I also am learning from you, and we're going to build this thing together, it just won't ever happen. So it has to live in the context of what's there, and it has to be about the people.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I like that term, that notion of coherence, especially when you're bringing in external providers. And a lot of schools don't necessarily need external providers. They're doing fine, but many schools do, and they benefit from that. So how can school admin best partner with external providers?
That's a great question, and I'm thinking of a few administrators, so I might name a few. So one, Dr. Cree Fletcher. We first started working together. I, as a provider, when he was at Hartford Public Schools in Connecticut, and he oversaw secondary humanities. And one of his beliefs around the role of a provider is he thinks that you need two levels. You need internal learning. You need to have your people doing your thing. So like he invested in and spent a lot of time with like a coaching cohort that worked with all the different schools in Hartford, and lead teachers. Like you need your internal PD, but you also need an external someone, one, because they have their pulse on things beyond the bubble of your district or school. I literacy is what I live and breathe every single day. What I don't have to do is make parent phone calls, right? Like I don't have to do that part, so I can focus on other things. And so when I come in, I have a national, international understanding of practices that I can bring into the bubble community of your school. He also says, so just to reveal a bit, so Korea in particular, hi Korea, if you're listening, he calls me fun uncle, because he's like, yeah, you come in, fun uncle, you can say the same things that I've been saying, but they hear it differently from you. And so there's a way you can do that. And so and I've heard that from a number of other district leaders as well, too, and not just for me, but when you have a provider that's trusted, that has coherence, that's built relationships with your teachers, there's a way where we can say the things that you as administrators have been saying all along, but we can say it differently based on our expertise around adult learning or just because we're a different person. And it can sometimes validate the work you're doing too. So I think administrators, I do think it's important. And Tom Marshall is another administrator in Paramus, New Jersey, who said something similar, that he believes very strongly in we need strong internal learning and we need some external connection too. And I think when leaders with providers are partners, so I've seen many different things. I've seen some leaders who want you to just come in and do whatever you're supposed to do. And we don't work like that because you're the leader. It's your vision. We
Right,
need to help you. And also,
right.
it's really easy to dismiss someone as an outsider. It has to be a partnership. At the same time, it can't be that the partner drives everything. The leader needs to be a partner with you, has to help you decide, well, what am I seeing now? What comes next? One thing that we do at the EdCollab, I do in my work, we don't have anything prepackaged. All the work that we do in every school we work with, every district, is always developed together. It's based on, research, and here's one of Lorena's books back here. It's based on learning from the literacy, world, but we're building what we do based on your needs. So I think leaders need to be partners. Then Well, I'll say this, and I hope no leaders are upset with me for saying this. You also, as a leader, need to carry the vision. I have experienced all kinds of leadership in different schools, and there are two poles where things fall apart. One are the leaders that they believe a lot in autonomy, but I think it's almost too much. So they are like, whatever you want to do, teachers, whatever you want to take from this PD, it's up to you. And they're not really championing a vision. They're just kind of like, go. And while that feels good to individual teachers sometimes, like I might feel like, good, I get to do what I want and take what I want. Um, One, it doesn't create a system. So kids are just the kids who are lucky enough to get the teacher who's doing the thing that the kid needs to progress just happens to be bouncing around to the right teacher is great. But then if I happen to get someone else who's not using similar practices or whatever's going on, it doesn't create a system. It just creates silos of individual people. The other thing is it leads to folks all working extremely hard instead of working together. So there's a lot of simultaneous planning that's happening, but we aren't on the same page. And so I think we need leaders who also are inviting you in as a partner. Please help me with this goal. I want to improve reading instruction. I want to see kids read more. I want our library to have more checkouts, whatever it is. But I, as the leader, need to champion that vision. I have to look for it. I have to ask about it. I have to have hard conversations if I need to. The other end of the pole are leaders who are almost too focused on their vision that they aren't seeing the people inside of it. And I've worked with some leaders like that too, where there's a lot of managing of, have you, so Chris was just with us last week and he showed us how to do this lesson. Have you done a lesson exactly like that yet? Instead of really thinking responsively, what am I seeing and how do we best approach the work here? So I think it's somewhere in the middle. I have to champion a vision, but I also have to be responsive to the people in front of me. I think those kinds of leaders partner best with outside providers.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So critical. So critical that folks are on the same page, that you're co-creating, co-leading, and really being, as you mentioned, the word responsive, right? Being responsive to the faculty and staff, and not just pressing, because sometimes administrators do that. I know sometimes I probably did that in the past. And that's where it's vital to have external providers come in and say, like, hey, have you considered X, Y, Z? Or, hey, I hear what you're saying, but maybe you need to slow down a little bit, give them a little bit of time to process, give them room to implement. Let's keep thinking about ways that we could support them in a way that, helps them not only stay on board, but helps them actually feel supported, so that they feel
Yes,
better about the
yes,
job that they're doing.
exactly. I mean, teaching is impossibly demanding, and leadership is impossibly demanding. I have many friends and members of the EdCollab that have moved into administrative positions even the last couple of years. And the amount of relearning and work you need to do to be an instructional leader is also very demanding. Um, we need to feel good about our jobs. I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding of like moving through change can turn people off. So let's just like let them do what they're doing. And I don't think that's true at all. I think education is an intellectual pursuit. We are in this because we care about kids and we love to learn. And so if I'm creating the environment, the circumstances as a leader and as a provider where your learning can be pushed and you can be challenged. I mean, I run on blunt, especially with leaders. And I say that to them. I'm like, let's just say the thing. If there's something not going well, we need to say it. If there's something that I'm doing, we need to say it. Um, I think we have to build an environment where it feels good to be pushed, not to be afraid of the push, but also to feel like you are heard and there's collaboration and you're supported. Another district I work with, Shelton and Washington State, their district's in a logging community in Washington State. There's like a very small municipal airport next to them that planes literally like fly over their school. They have two reservations that are part of their district. They pull in from a number of rural communities around them, as well as a few larger cities near them as well too. And Wyatt Jesse, the superintendent, and Chelsea Brady, the director of secondary that I've been working closely with, I thought they were so thoughtful in the rollout of our work together around how are people feeling supported. So Wyatt and Chelsea push. And their teacher leaders and administrators that are there too, they push. They aren't afraid to push, but they also create a huge network of support. They have teachers on special assignment as coaches. They also developed themselves last year, this year, what they call the cadre. So it's teachers who aren't on special assignment. They just are teachers, teacher leaders who are, in addition to their regular jobs, have some release time to come together and talk about the practices we're working on and the curriculum that they're writing inside of their district. And those people are giving direct input back to the leaders and to me. Here's what I'm hearing, here's what's not working, but they also are empowered to push and support their staff. Um, and our PD, like I think all good PD should be, is ongoing throughout the year. So it's not a we came one time, good luck. We're continually coming back. I'm coming back. I'm flying from New York to Washington State, but I love to be there because it's such an engaged community. Um, it's push with support. I think if both exist, we're already seeing the growth in planning conversations. It's already a veteran, smart team of teachers, but the way they're talking more purposefully about instruction and curriculum design over just the past 3 years we've been together, it's incredible how much they've grown. And a lot of it is due to their leaders creating support.
That's great. That's great. So we got to push and support. So Chris, what is a message of encouragement that you want to offer our audience?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a great question because a lot feels discouraging right now. I mean, I think I would say if I think in the world of education, um, the pandemic was the shutdown of the pandemic was a small blip of people realizing how challenging our jobs are. And if you remember, like people, teachers should be paid $1 million,
Yeah.
my family's realizing it.
Yeah, that
And
didn't last
then
too long.
no, it didn't because like many things, we became a political pawn when I think a lot of it started with negative attacks on transgender youth. That became a way to start digging into, well, are educators doing the right thing? And then how queer identities are presented, and then Black, Indigenous, and Latinx identities as political power players were trying to find wedge issues. Once again, education became that thing. So I think
Mhm.
we have felt and are feeling in our field a push for deprofessionalization again and mistrust. And I guess the word of encouragement I would say in that is that there is nothing more precious and exciting and amazing than being able to impact the lives of children and young adults. We are literally in our classrooms or as leaders in our schools or as outside providers, the work that we do is literally to paint the future. That's what we're building. We are interacting with minds that will decide what happens next in all of the things in climate change and in war and whatever it is, they're deciding now. And we have never, other than that one blip in the shutdown, have never been without doubt in our profession. It's just a familiar bludgeon that politicians like to use. So that's always existed. What is continually new are the young people we serve. So I think the word of encouragement is that the work you did even a few years ago has changed and impacted how children are moving through K-12 and beyond, and it will continue to be that way. So I think as long as you go back to the kids, see their eyes, see their voices, see their work, I think that that's what inspires me. When everything else annoys me, pisses me off, whatever it is, being back with kids and watching their growth, that's what keeps me
Mm,
going.
thank you. Thank you. Good reminder. Hey, kids, we see you. And when we don't, call us to the carpet.
Yes.
So, if you had the opportunity to have lunch with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So I'm glad you sent this question ahead of time because that first day one, I don't know. I have many answers. There's living people out of education, musicians, actors, whatever people that would just be fun to you with. But I think if I could make a wish come true, One that I thought of is someone who's no longer with us, Dr. Roz Lindner. She was an incredible educator, originally from Michigan, but she and her family lived in Atlanta, Georgia. Graduate of Clark Atlanta University. Um, Roz was for a short while a member of the EdCollab, but her presence, I have one of her books back here, the Big Book of Details. Roz's presence in not just education, but in people's lives was so huge. After her passing a few years ago, I we went to Clark Atlanta University. Her line sisters were having a memorial and celebration of her life there. And the most fascinating thing is every person that spoke up to talk about Roz said she made me feel like I was her most important person. She had this way of making everyone feel that they could do anything and just spending so much time and effort with you. So I think I would love, and I'll also say her passing really affected me. She
Mhm.
touched my life for maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 years, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It was a short amount of time, but I was so impacted by her and her passing was so sudden. If I had the opportunity to sit with her, both to thank her how much she impacted me in the work that we do, and also just to check in on the world and get advice on what to do next. I think she's someone I wish I could have back, and even if it was just for a meal, I would love to have that opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. For folks that want to connect with you, learn more about the Ed Collab, um, maybe pick up your book, where can they follow you?
Great. So you can find all things EdCollab on our website, theeducatorcollaborative.com. And then on social media, we're lots of places. I'll say a little soapbox moment again, too. We currently have decided, both for myself and as the EdCollab, to not be on X, formerly Twitter. And that was about a year or so ago when a number of queer rights organizations together wrote a letter to X and said that they were going to take themselves off the platform because they felt it was no longer a safe place for queer people to interact. With that, for a while, I've noticed the decline of X, and I think with that, and in solidarity with them, we exist on X, but are no longer actively
Active.
there.
Yeah.
I'll also say that's where our largest audiences were, so also not so good for business that we're not on X, but
Well,
but again, it's a moral compass over just business. But the other places you can find us, you can find me at Chris Lehman, like iPhone, or at the Ed Collab. You can find us on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. And the Ed Collab's YouTube channel has all of our past gatherings. So every session, including Roberto and Lorena's
hey,
incredible keynote from just this past September, just a month ago, is also there too. So you can find the Ed Club on YouTube, and you'll find videos, including theirs, there too.
hey, Chris, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure just like hearing from you directly. I know we've collaborated, but just to hear your vision, hear your heart behind the work that the Ed Collab has been doing and your approach to professional development, which aligns with ours, but there's always something that we could take from others who are doing wonderful work. So thank you for being an inspiration and for doing the work that you're doing and look forward to continuing to see the growth of the Ag Collab.
Thank you. And I also I want to thank you and Lorena for all of the work that you do outside of multicultural classroom and within it as well too. You continue to be a guiding light for the work that we do. And thanks for all the ways that we've partnered together. And thank you for this invitation today. It really is a pleasure to be in conversation with you.
Take care.
Thank you.